Alright, welcome to a video on section 8.8 from Math 3, which is looking at the reciprocal functions, cosecant, secant, and cotangent. So this is a foldable. You're going to fold along this line and you're going to cut along these two lines. And the titles that you're going to write on the outside are cosecant, secant, and cotangent, the three reciprocal functions. Okay, so what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to explain what they are. I'm going to explain how you find them on the unit circle. And then I'm going to get you started on each of these t-tables to graph them, but then I'm going to have you finish the t-tables and graph them on your own. Alright, let's get started. So, cosecant, what is it? Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So if we would draw a right triangle, sine is opposite, let's say we're using this angle here, theta, over hypotenuse. So that means that cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. Another way that we can write this is we can say cosecant, which is abbreviated CSC. Cosecant of theta is 1 divided by the sine of theta, or vice versa, the sine of theta is 1 over the cosecant of theta. To evaluate on a calculator the cosecant of an angle, you'll notice that there is no cosecant button. That's because you don't need one. You just need two buttons. You need the sine button and you need an inverse button. So the inverse or reciprocal button, is usually an x with a -1, or it could be a 1 over x. These are the same thing, right? So what you would do is if you want to find the cosecant of 20 degrees, you would find the sine of 20 degrees, and then you would push this button. Or you can do it manually. You can do 1 divided by the sine of 20 degrees. And that will give you the same effect. Alright, so how do we find it on the unit circle? Since the unit circle has cosine, then sine, right? The sine is the y coordinate, the cosine is the x coordinate. The sine is just going to be whatever the y coordinate is flipped over. So 1 over the y coordinate is essentially how we find it. So let's do an example. This point over here is the point 1, 0. So since the sine is the y coordinate, we're going to take this 0 and we are going to take the reciprocal of it. So essentially we'd get 1 divided by 0 for 0, 1 over 0, which is undefined. Just like when we had tangent, undefined means there's going to be asymptotes involved. Okay, so let's do pi over 4. Pi over 4 is 45 degrees. It's right here. It's that point rad 2 over 2, comma rad 2 over 2. So we are going to do the reciprocal of rad 2 over 2. The reciprocal of rad 2 over 2 is 2 over rad 2. Let's get that in a calculator. So just take a calculator and divide 2 divided by the square root of 2. It gives you 1.4, about, which is actually the same as the square root of 2. If we rationalize the denominator, the 2 would cancel and you'd get just the square root of 2. Alright, I'm going to have you finish the rest of this t-table on your own and start plotting the points. You'll have a way of checking your answer after. Okay, let's do secant. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So looking at our right triangle, cosine is, of course, adjacent over hypotenuse. So let's see. So cosecant, or sorry, secant is going to be hypotenuse over adjacent. Okay, and we abbreviate it SEC. So secant of theta would be 1 over the cosine of theta. And vice versa. I'm not going to write them both this time, but you can flip around. So how do we find it on the unit circle? Well, cosine is the x-coordinate, so we're going to do 1 over the x-coordinate. So for example, we draw that little mini unit circle again. The point 1, 0, the cosine is the 1. So the reciprocal of 1 would be 1. Doesn't change. All right, and so then you can do the rest of the unit circle to see, or t-table using the unit circle to figure out what it looks like. All right, and finally we have cotangent, which you could probably guess is the reciprocal of tangent. So tangent of theta is opposite over adjacent. So cotangent is going to be adjacent over opposite. So we abbreviate it COT. So the cotangent of theta is 1 over tangent, and vice versa. So how do we find it on the unit circle? Well, tangent is sine over cosine. So cotangent is going to be cosine, put equals here, over sine. Cosine is the x-coordinate, sine is the y-coordinate. So instead of y over x, this time we're doing x over y. Okay, so right here, our point 1, 0. So I'm doing x over y, which is 1 over 0 for, I'm doing the first one when theta is 0 radians, or 0 degrees. So 1 over 0 is undefined, which means we're going to have asymptotes here. Okay? All right, I want you to finish these t-tables, do the graphs, and then there'll be a way for you to check your answers. Okay? All right, good luck.